This is the Lekker Rugby Pod with Harry Jones and Emily Bell. Brought to you by Sit and Co.
How's it, MBA? Hey, everything that finishes well is good, right? In the end.
Shit, but I was wondering if it's going to finish well. That last penalty, they didn't take the kick to the post, and then they try and do a drop kick. Typical, you know. You could have taken the 3 points and get it done and over with.
And kill time, yeah. So, it's interesting because the most important thing, I will say, as a Bok fan, is we only let England score 3 points. And listen, I think we actually would have lost this game in prior years on the road, end-of-year tour, with so many weird things going against us. The referee in love with his whistle for both sides. I'm not even saying one thing or the other. I'm just saying that an overly pinging ref can sometimes hurt the stronger side because you stop all the flow and so forth. I think we might have found a way to lose that because we weren't comfortable being favorites. We would have been thrown off. Too many guys would have been hanging their head. We would have been fighting too much with the referee. We would have been planning our videos about how the referee did something wrong in the middle of the game instead of winning the game. So all credit to guys like Malcolm Marks, Kwagga Smith, who just put their head down and started working. Even Steenekamp gets pinged, strangely enough, when the penalty counts 11-10. Suddenly you get carded for accumulation penalty. It doesn't make any sense. Some of the maul calls and so forth. I just think there was a way to lose this match, and we didn't. And so this is almost a perfect example, I think, of learning to be the favorite, learning to rise above the referees' excusable errors, and just, some referees are very bad at understanding the flow of a game in the middle of a game. When they go back, I'm sure that also the referees that are the hardest on themselves. But I actually like referees who know that in the middle of the game and self-correct. It's like a good golfer, like a professional golfer. The reason why he's better than us is because he can fix his swing in the middle of the round, in the middle of the swing. I felt like the ref was going down a road that he almost felt like he has to whistle every single thing. And once you go down that road, you kind of do have to, because if you stop, then it feels wrong. But what an interesting start. The big, strong start from Oranges. It was there were some adjustments, the carry, the stretch, Kurt Lee going over, but then disallowed on a rubbish call about forward out of their hands. Listen, we see a lot of momentum calls. This is old. This has been settled decades ago. That when you're running full speed and your guy is running full speed behind you and you throw it out of their hands, it's going to go forward. It's going to end up being forward from where you release it. But it didn't come back out of Fussie's hands. And then in the very same try that's disallowed by England, the same thing happens, except it's a worse forward pass. And they don't go and look at it. They pick him up on something else, on the ruck penalty. But there was this period of time where it just felt like at 19-17 going to 24-17, back to 19-17. And then England goes up, no, it doesn't. And then they score a penalty at 2019. Then the game sort of ground down into the kind of struggle that I did worry about. I worried about it because it wouldn't have taken much. There's a scrum where England gets the penalty on the first time that Koch goes down, whereas in the first half, it took 3 times for Gen to go down. That kind of thing starts to go against you. I think Evans pinged for hooking that arm. It's fair enough. But then a ruck penalty that I thought was very, very picky. And in the end, the Boks come back and get a penalty, and we have to make a decision on whether to go for 3 or 7. And in the end, there's this, incredible bounce kick by Andre, where if you're Mani, you got to say, how come he gets all the luck, right? Somehow, if Mani had hit the ball at the crossbar, he would have stayed on this side, and with Andre, it slides over. And then I like Andre. He's like that guy, from school. He was like the lucky boy his whole life, where he plays it off like, oh yeah, I planned that. And I married the principal's daughter, but that's cool, So
snogging the principal's daughter, you mean?
Yeah. Then you have all this like aerial contest things where we see that we thought we were getting away from the once you have 2 guys in a free zone aerial contest, the whistle gets swallowed. Now we see, no, actually you could. it could get pinged back for various reasons. The break by Damien Delende and where he does a cheeky pass way back, like almost like, hey, referee, make sure, okay, I'm passing really early, and I'm going to throw it over my head like this, even more than I have to. I thought that was great. And the height on Pollard's kicks that turned around the aerial contest. That's what allows your chasers to get there, is not so much perfectly weighted length. It's the fact that they just touch the sky. So that pulls it back to 29-20. And then from that point on, let's see, that was 65 minutes. From 65 minutes on, nothing else really happens in terms of scoring, but so many things happen. Pollard in the air, besides putting the ball in the air off the boot, being in the air and claiming kicks perfectly textbook with your shoulder and your hip facing so that nothing bad can happen to you. Only bad things can happen to them. Right when the referee is falling in love with his whistle. I mean, I expected Andrew Brace to go down on his knee and propose marriage to his whistle at some point, because it then just became who is going to be the last one pinged. England kept falling in love with its 5-meter line-out maul, and it wasn't really working. They just found a way to botch that up. It did result in a card in the end, because then it kind of just made the referee even more irritated. But a Harry Randall knock-on, a dummy throw, dominant tackles by Jesse Creel coming over them, resulting in Colby magic. All these moments, you get to 73 minutes and you feel safe. At 73 minutes, where we have a penalty or a line out, at the 50, and we're up 29-20, I literally just wrote down, it's over. I didn't know how it would be over. I knew that England would make it sad and painful and try to make it bad. And you never get any kind of love or joy at the end of the match. You're clapping each other off. You don't really like each other. You don't really want to have a beer in the change rooms. You have to, you will. It's the ethos. But they just make it ugly. I thought the defining element of that period of time was Kobus Reinach catching a very, very slow Maro Itoje, who looked like he'd been overplayed. And this is where I thought, Rassi, you genius. You did rotate the packs just enough where the same thing that happened in reverse now. And that the second half, Elrich Lowe coming on with maximum energy. Kwagga Smith off the ground so quick. Even if Steenekamp was too quick and got pinged, he had a lot of energy. That was good. Steenekamp gets let's see, he goes off at 66 minutes, I think. So there's this period of time where we're one man down. England has a lot of territory. You wonder about that, but the energy of the pack versus Maro Itoje, poor guy, he's like trying to get his feet to go, and Kobus, one of the quickest guys in the field, runs him down, horse collars him, not really, but like the kind of old school tackle, and then Koch gets over him. 75 minutes and 11 seconds left. There's now a South African line out at the 30-meter. Even if we stuff that up, we feel like we're okay. But instead, we get a maul penalty. And as you say, Pollard pooches it to the 20. The clock ticks off. Doesn't really matter what happens from then. Misses a drop goal. Colby claims a restart, which probably wins him the man of the match, because it just felt like Justin Colby was floating on air at the end of the match. He still had plenty of energy. You wanted him to get a hat trick, actually, his first hat trick in history, Test history. And then it was interesting because Marcus has to take a mark, and then he has to get snaffled, and then they have to do a plain old exit, and so the game kind of anticlimactically ends. I would have man of the match, but I think sometimes my man of the match always is Peter du Toit. I would have probably chosen him because I thought it was his constancy throughout the match after one regrettable penalty probably kept the Boks afloat. You got to have someone who can go 80, even in a bomb squad era and even in this kind of test match. So 29-20 felt about fair, a 9-point win. Felt like it might have been a 10 to 12-point win, actually. But when you look at the 19-17 and then a 10-3 second half, you do like those odds on the road. You don't want to get into scoring contests like that, and you don't want to get into referee reading contests, and you don't want to hang your head, hang your shoulders. So I love my Boks. I'm excited. The one thing is I'm mostly excited because there's one team I hate losing to the most. It makes me want to throw my head through the wall, and rip something off the wall and throw it. That's how much I hate it. I want to just take a knobkerrie and smash everything in this house. Who's to England?
Yeah, I know.
I always remember there's one loss to England. Yeah. And the one loss to England is, it's just, I could never get over it. I still haven't really. 2003 or 4, where it was 53-3. And even the 2007, when we beat them 4 times in 1 year, it's not good enough. I still want to have that one statement win where it's worse than that. I want to win by 55 points. But so because of the fact that it could have been worse, and I felt like there were years not too long ago where we'd have found a way to lose that match, I'm going to put this in my pipe, smoke it well, and have a good time.
Listen, we'll discuss it in more detail on Monday's episode of the Lekker Rugby Pod, but I want to tell you something. The moment Andre came onto the field, I felt, like you said, it's going to be okay. Up to that moment, I was not sure. I was nervous. I didn't trust the box, if you know what I'm saying here. When Andre came on, it just sort of calmed down, and I knew we were in safe hands.
He's a vice captain for a reason. He's vice captain not only on attack, but on defense. He knows where things are going to go. And people will focus on one thing and the other. Oh, he missed a tackle. Listen, Andre knows where to be. So the fact that he even gets some of these places and is always on scramble, he's a cover defender. But there's not a lot of fly-offs that you like going up for the high ball in a center, congested, almost a fullback situation. Marcus Smith is one of them, actually. He's a very good operator in the air, just not big enough. But Andre is so solid under the ball. And the time he gives everyone on the ball, by the fact of positioning, where he takes the ball, he always gives his 9 a good target. I actually was thinking he'd slot that drop goal. And if he had, that would have been poetic justice. It would have been very funny to beat them 32-20 with a drop goal by Pollard. But in the end, I'd still say Pollard was probably the turning the tide guy. And if he had played more minutes, he might have been a man of the match.
A couple of players, I think, that didn't really stick up their hands, that didn't really rise to the occasion. We'll talk about it on Monday. Just briefly before we say good night and have a good one, your feelings about Marnie. I
understand the coaching staff's desire to give him 4th and 5th and 6th chances, and I understand it because it's not like there's a huge roster of proven 10-plus cap guys who play that position. And I also understand it because there's magic in him. He's magic Lebok. But the problem with Me the Magician is, when the audience figures out your tricks, and opposing teams do that too, and they have in the ERC as well, it can be problematic. Because rugby is a fundamental game, and in the end, there are things that don't change very much. And so he has to be able to read a match. He has to be able to execute on the basic things. You got to be able to paint the apple as it is, and then also be Picasso later. You have to write the beautiful story with good grammar, and then you could be the guy who doesn't follow punctuation. I think Marnie almost jumps to the virtuoso things and needs to come back to, but when I put a kick up, be sympathetic to my chasers. I mean, have some brotherly love. Don't put them into bad positions where you have Curtly Ardense going against Freddie Stewart one-on-one, and there's no one around because the way you kicked and the space and the shape in which you kicked was wrong. So I think that's a problem. I do think against weaker teams and against a team where it's going to definitely be an athletic track meet, 400 meter, sprints everywhere. That's fine. But in a game like this, where you knew it was going to grind down to some kind of proper test match, almost knockout feeling game, in the second half, you want Pollard. The other guy that I still think the church is still wondering about is Fassi, because there were moments of indecision, ambivalence. And I wondered about that. There was one moment where he got a flip pass and he had plenty of space, and I wanted him to just sort of go berserk. And I thought he was almost trying to decide how not to make a mistake. And I think if you're going to have Fassi on the field, he has to be the full Fassi. So I would encourage the young man to express himself in those moments. Let's see. I do think that in some cases, Argis Sneeman needs to finish the play. Sometimes he's looking too quickly for the offload, which again, when you've got a team under the pump is fine. But in a tight match, where it was 20-20, you just want the big boy to finish the play and steamroller some people and realize how much bigger he is than everyone else. Besides that, I would say there was a lot of really good performances. I was really, really excited about our midfield being back. That looks really good. They never looked beaten by a pretty good English midfield, and they always looked like they had the measure of the man.
We're struggling with network here. Bandwidth is not good, but I want to just one last question before we go. The other big thing of the weekend was Wilkulo. Your impressions of his game? He came off quite quickly, quite early in the second half.
Yeah, and then he had to come back because of the card and scrums, right? I thought he did his job. If we're looking at him as the third guy behind France and Vinny, solid. I mean, most teams would love to have that guy as their first guy. Heaviest man on the field-ish between him and Achia. So you're not looking for a whole lot from him. I didn't see him miss a lot of reads. I have to go back and watch the game, but I didn't see him miss a lot of reads in defense. He knew where to stay. On the carry, a little bit less dynamic than Malherbe or Koch, and definitely way behind Steenekamp and Oxenche. But worried about Ox, so hopefully he's okay. It didn't look great. He was coming off, and he's a guy a little bit like Franco Mostert, and that he doesn't show a lot of pain. So hopefully he's okay.
He could barely walk, so you don't have to show pain.
Yeah.
I mean, he just can't walk. Anyway, thanks, Harry. I appreciate it. And like I said, it was a mad scramble. We did Radio Rugby live stream, then we did halftime, then we did Radio Rugby live stream second half, then we did this one now live. So yeah, I've been juggling many balls. So if I dropped one or two of them, I'm sorry for that, but I appreciate it. Thanks, Harry. Thanks for making the time.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.